All right, so this is going to be a fun one. This is on Imagination with a Healing Garden. Welcome to Shifting Perspectives. When it comes to diagnosis, I have a very articulate point of view and perspective of psychology. Some of my followers love to throw words at me and ask me, I want to know your opinion or your perspective on X. And I get this a lot. I love it. I love it. I love taking my eighth perspective brain, and just analyzing shit and going, what do I think of it? So, schizophrenia. That's what I'm talking about right now. This is what I call toxic psychology. When you are a professional and you've been laying out the profession of psychology, and then you get to a point where you go, I don't understand this, so we're going to call it X, and you throw it all over there. And then I come along and I look at it and go, oh, I know exactly what that is. You guys are incompetent. And they are. So let me give you a rundown on the history of psychology in 2 minutes. It's 1:27. So I have 2 minutes to explain this to you. Psychology has its roots originally in philosophy, which is the art and the study of how we think. How we think is absolutely a study of the subconscious mind, how we perceive the world. This is philosophy. It is a 2,000-year-old practice to start. So that by the time Freud came along in the 1850s to 1890s and dropped his concepts, philosophy was an old hat. Except Freud was not a philosopher. Freud knew jack and fucking shit about philosophy. The father of psychology knew jack and fucking shit about philosophy. Prior to philosophy, psychology was philosophy, which is why we see things like Kant's I think, therefore I am, and I am, therefore I think. Descartes. I may have gotten those philosophers reversed. In philosophy, we study shit like, why are we here? Who are we? What is this God person anyway? And then we explore these concepts through logic and formal argument and debate using premise. Premise that is so fucking solid that philosophers are notorious for outproving neuroscientists. That's how good they are. So in the 1800s, some guy came along and hypothesized a bunch of shit that he knew nothing about, without any background in philosophy. From this one man stemmed modern psychology, which is the bullshit that is. Now, there immediately became two types of psychology: the modern bullshit that is, and philosophy. Philosophy continued on its road and gave us people like Carl Jung, who was first and foremost a philosopher; Dr. Graves, whose work on spiral dynamics is the foundation of my work, perspective psychology; Nathaniel Branden, Dr. Nathaniel Branden, who is the renowned genius when it comes to self-esteem. By the way, Nathaniel Branden was the lover of Ayn Rand for 20 years. To say Nathaniel Branden knew some things about philosophy is an understatement. And there's me, also a philosopher of 30 years, and psychology of 30 years. The majority of psychology that you get in the garbage world that is philosophy that, or I'm sorry, is psychology that completely lacks any core basis in philosophy. So as a result, you have a lot of philosophy out there that has nothing to do with, you have a lot of psychology out there that has nothing to do with philosophy. Now, I need to make this very clear to you. In my brain, philosophy and psychology are the same thing. And in Carl Jung's brain, and in Dr. Graves' brain, and also in Nathaniel Branden's brain, they are the same damn thing. Philosophy and psychology are the same. Now, you can have psychology with a 2,000-year background, or you can have psychology that only has 150 years based off of somebody who knows jack and shit about philosophy. Guess which one you're getting when you go to classic traditional therapy? You're getting the modern one, the garbage one. You're getting the one that has nothing to do whatsoever with philosophy. So needless to say, when you decide to become a therapist or a psychologist, you are walking into a field and a profession that is basically gutted out and lacks the entire basis of its actual core, philosophy, perspective. That's like deciding to become a doctor and deciding to only take concepts off of a quack doctor from the 1800s instead of examining the history of medicine that spans 4,000 years and going all the way back to Egypt. Which one would you want working on your operation? So now we have a bunch of idiots pulling from modern psychology without any background at all in a 2,000-year-long practice, giving their hypothesis. Needless to say, they don't know jack and fucking shit, which is where the concept of schizophrenia comes from. When you get somebody who walks in and they've got all of these symptoms, it becomes a catch-all of, I have no idea what the fuck this is, so we're just going to call it schizophrenia and throw this person over here, and by the way, here's some meds. Yep, that's modern psychology. That's what I call toxic psychology. And then articles are released recently going, wouldn't you know it, the medications for schizophrenia are actually more harmful than good. And here I am, a philosopher, going, you think? No fucking shit. Now this is where it gets to be fun. Schizophrenia is perspective abuse. It is somebody who has been so horribly abused for being themselves that they take their entire brain and they cram it down into a box that literally makes them insane. Schizophrenia, according to modern psychologists, claim that, they have no sense of reality because conformists have fucked up their mind so drastically that they absolutely have no grounding basis in reality, because our concept of reality comes from how we define ourselves and our ethics and our beliefs. And had these fucking dipshits actually studied philosophy, they would know that. But they didn't. So now you have a bunch of assholes making a lot of diagnosis on something they know nothing about. Reality? Now that is a branch of philosophy. In fact, what reality is 100% a concept of philosophy. That's all we do in philosophy, is ask the question, is this real? Or has someone imagined us? Are we the figments of the imaginations of gods? Or are we real? This is all philosophy does. So when psychology, a sub-branch of philosophy, comes along, we take these concepts and we explore them further. Oh, but not modern psychologists. No, they think they've got all the answers. So they ravel their stories and their concepts based off of kindergarten material and theories from an 1,800-year-old quack. Yeah, I'm not impressed with Freud. Not at all. Not at all. It was Carl Jung who I stumbled upon in philosophy and went, oh, holy shit, this man knows his shit. Carl Jung is amazing. Carl Jung gave birth to something that we call the shadow self. It's modern psychologists that now come up with shadow work based off of the shadow self that Carl Jung did. But again, they bastardized it. Had they actually done the work, they would understand that it's shadow self. And shadow self, had they done the philosophical research, is just intuition. So this whole concept of shadow work, they're missing the point. Again. And had they read Nathaniel Branden, who studied philosophy, he actually lays out shadow work properly. But again, modern psychologists don't. In fact, when I talk to modern psychologists, I get questions like, Who's Nathaniel Branden? He is the leading psychologist in self-esteem. I have made more recommendations to modern psychologists about Nathaniel Branden's work and Dr. Graves' work that they know nothing about, because the government doesn't want you studying this shit because they take it away from you. God, it feels so good to talk to nonconformists, because nonconformists will understand and get this shit. They'll appreciate this shit. So when you have a therapist, that therapist's work is 100% based off of a philosophy, a branch of philosophy that has absolutely rejected philosophical study. That's not going to be quality material. In fact, there's a lot of holes in it, which I find every fucking day. So what is going on in the case of schizophrenia? We have a defined sense of self and reality. Who we are is 100% the exploration and the defined core of who we are and where we belong. It is relativity. Relativity, understanding where you are and where we are in the universe, defines our sanity. You would know this if you studied philosophy. Our sanity is defined off of where we are in this world and how we relate to reality. All of sanity in this world is based off of this understanding. To grasp this concept, philosophy absolutely stretches into and examines the definition of the self and its relationship to the universe and our ability to perceive that universe. This is where physics and science enters into this equation. This is where astronomy is a huge part of philosophy. There is a reason why this shit was taught at the Library of Alexandria, which was actually the library to the full university at Alexandria, is because the Greeks understood the importance of philosophy, astronomy, geometry, and physics, and how it's related to the self. It was really the exploration and the definition of who we are and where we are in relativity to the universe. This is reality, how we define it. This is philosophy. Now this is psychology. When you are abused, your relativity is taken away from you. When you are abused, your definition of the self is taken away from you. What this does to your mind is you now lose your own coordinates. There was the movie IQ with Walter Matthau. And in the movie, Stephen Fry, the scientist, is conducting an experiment on a man. There is a man screaming in a room. They have taken away his clocks, his calendar, his sunlight. The man lacks complete identity without time. He's been in there for 30 days, and they watch him progress into insanity. They ask him, why is the man screaming? And he says, we've had him in there for 30 days without any clock. He has no idea what time it is, no idea what day it is, no idea anything. He has lost his relativity, and the man is screaming. Tim Robbins hands the man a watch and walks away. The watch tells the time and the date. The man calms because he understands his relativity to the universe. We need to know who we are and where we are and when we are. We must know this. But when you are so horrifically abused, you lose this information. You lose who you are, when you are, where you are. You lose where you belong and when you belong. And you grasp for anything to reestablish that identity. Yeah. Deep shit, right? Schizophrenia is the absolute worst case scenario when you have lost all of your identity, all of your relativity, and all of where you belong. You lack where you are and your relationship to the universe. Guess what? All abuse is schizophrenia, and that's the case. Because all abuse is the loss of it all. The narcissist thinks that they are the center of the universe. The borderline personality disorder person thinks that the person they love is the center of the universe. The codependent thinks that their purpose or them fusing in their relationship to another person is the center of the universe. The person who suffers from depression has lost all sense of themselves in the universe. The person with PTSD can't stop focusing on one event, which defines the center of their universe. Every mental illness is a distortion of who you are and where you're going. Every mental illness. Schizophrenia is all of that. So when you have somebody who has just suffered so greatly from perspective abuse that they have no sense of identity, no sense of reality, instead of actually figuring out that this is just perspective abuse, modern psychologists throw them into a catch-all and put them on medication and say, well, there you go. But had they studied philosophy, they would know this, and they didn't. Had they made it a requirement that their psychologists study philosophy so they would know this, then NIM would be churning out completely different material. Oh, but wait, it's being mandated by a government that wants to keep you in the fourth perspective. So yeah, they don't actually want to make you better. They want to keep you sick so you'll stay their slave, because the fourth perspective is a slave mind perspective. They are defined by who can serve the government. So yeah, they're not actually looking to make you better. They're looking to make you just better enough so that you'll serve them. Which is why I have the garden, to provide you with an alternative, because what they're offering is shit. Because what they're offering is only 150 years old, whereas my material is 2,000 plus years old. Big difference in quality. Big difference in quality. If you love shit like this, subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you want more shit like this, subscribe to my amphitheater. And if you cannot get shit like this enough, subscribe to The Journey into the Self and become a Healing Garden member, where you get my masterclasses for free. Thank you so much, and may the kindest of words always find you.